Hey guys, so I figured that it was probably a better way to have like a video or something of how to use the tools of Gospel Library, or what's available. This is just the way I use them. But I spent a number of years trying to get better at it and just really utilize what they offer. So rather than like a lesson where everybody's at different levels and some people are checking out or whatever, it seemed like this might be a better way. And you can watch if you want and not if you don't. And yeah, so having said that, let's get into some of the tools and the power behind the Gospel Library app. So I'm on my iPad. This is my iPad. This is where I study. I use my iPad. You can also download the app on your computer. I know most of us have it on our phones. It's harder for me on the phone just because it's smaller. But so I use the iPad. So first, I want to start about the most important. Actually, no, I want to start just with the home screen, just kind of the buttons on here. This can be an overwhelming screen, to be honest. So this button right here is the home button. This takes you to right here. This button is a bookshelf. I call it a bookshelf. That's kind of what the icon is. And if you click on it, it kind of shows you all that's available. This is the whole bookshelf of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Think of like walking into the prophet's office. This is what's on his bookshelf. It's everything. And each of these has, tons and tons of stuff. Seminary Institute, teachings of the presidents, all the stuff we've used, everything they think is relevant. And they actually even have an archived content, which I've used, going into stuff and just seeing what's available. And you can even download more that's in that. But anyway, so that's the bookshelf tab, okay? That's a quick and easy way to, access, if you were in class and they were like, hey, go to DNC, whatever. You could just use this to go to DNC, whatever they want to, 3 or whatever. Or the Old Testament, or open the Come Follow Me. Where's Come Follow Me? It's in here somewhere. And so, oh yeah, it's right here. That's how you would access those things really quickly. But the home button, it's kind of like your home page, like your main screen. It has a lot of stuff, and it can be kind of overwhelming. Like you're just looking at this, and you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do with all this stuff? I don't know, right? Like, oh, let's create a plan. Here's a tip, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Well, here's a cool thing about this homepage. You can actually edit it. So up here, these 3 little dots here, you can edit the home page. And I've kind of got it mostly the way that I want, but let's say that you wanted study tools here. Say that you wanted study tools to be, that's not important to you. You can move it down and you can see it real time kind of move down. Maybe Come Follow Me is really important to you, so you could move that to the top, or seeing the lesson right there. For me, the study tools are super important. I've learned that they have that streak thing, which is kind of cool. I mean, whatever. And then also continue reading is helpful for me because that's where I left off. And then quick links is also important to me. And you can see that it just gets organized the way that you want. Over here is kind of a cool thing. It's just a history. You can scroll through to see I remember reading something a couple days ago. Where was it? Oh, it was the Index of Saints or whatever. So that's kind of how this is laid out. You can click on Come Follow Me. They've got a cool verse of the day, which is clearly lower on my list. And you can actually have these show up. And I think they'll like give you notifications and stuff. Like if you want your iPad to be to or whatever, your device to show you a quote of the day or a verse of the day, you can choose the time or to remind yourself to whatever. It's really kind of cool. And I do like seeing these. It's helpful. They also have widgets, so you can actually swipe down on these and see, like different widgets. So anyway, that's cool. Back to Gospel Library. So that's the home page. That's this page right here. And then we talked about the bookshelf. Down here, you can open up multiple windows, which is really valuable. You can do it any way you want. And really, Gospel Library, it's got all the stuff. It's got all the information in there, but its real power, well, besides that, is an organization tool. It's not necessarily technology. It's really just, are you a good organizer? And a lot of you guys are. I'm not. But I've been learning more and more about how it works for me. Like I might have, Book of Mormon here, Old Testament here, New Testament here, Doctrine and Covenants here, and I would never change those. I might have hymns on the fifth one, and just I know that I'm not always going to go to a hymn on the fifth, thing here. You can open as many as you want by clicking this. See, I just opened one, and you can move them around. You can delete them. You can start over, so that's what this is right here. It's really cool. You can have a ton open. Bookmarks, a tool you can just mark your scriptures. I don't really use it a ton. It's fine, but you can add a bookmark and it'll say, oh, what's your bookmark? And I have a New Testament. So last time I read was in Revelation. You just hit refresh here, and my new bookmark will be Luke 22. You can see I've got a little bookmark here. So let's say I was on Luke 21 and I was like, oh, where did I leave off? It'll now be Luke 22, and you can click on it. It'll take you to Luke 22. So it's a pretty cool feature. I don't use it a ton. And then the search bar is awesome. You can you can search for anything. Scriptures. Actually, let me say this. You can search for anything, but the real power is for me is you can search your notes. They won't even let me scroll to it, to be honest. That's dumb. So there's your notes. You can search in your notes, and just your notes. Like this is me just searching in my notes. If I wanted to search, fear, I could just click on fear and it would show me notes. Or this is also cool. I can look for just the word fear on the page because it knows I'm in Luke. See, let's see if it shows up. No, there's nothing in Luke 22 about the word fear. You can search. Yeah. So anyway, it's really kind of it's kind of a cool feature there. Okay, I'm going to close that window. I'm going to go back to wherever I was. I'm going to go back to home. Okay, I'm going to show the real power of Gospel Library for me. In addition to being able to study, access the entirety of the library of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Here, we've talked about home. We've talked about bookshelf. We talked about these icons down here. We've talked about how you can reorganize your home. You can look at your history of what you've searched. The real value is in these three things here: annotations, tags, and notebooks. So we're just going to use Doctrine and Covenants 30 because that's what we were talking about in our class as an example. And there's my bookmark for DNC. You can see I put one, whatever. I think I can delete it. There, now I don't have a bookmark for DNC, whatever. Now I feel better about myself. No, just kidding. Okay, so we're going to use section DNC, or DNC section 30. Okay, so going back to these three things here: annotations, tags, and notebooks. If you go to, and here's my history, I just clicked on DNC 30, so it's easy to go to. Say that we are reading this and I want a note. I want to make a note. Like, behold, I say unto you, David, that you have feared man. Okay, we talked about this in class. So you highlight it. What will always pop up is this window. It will always pop up. If it doesn't pop up, the app is not performing right, and you should force quit it and start over. It's super quick and easy. And it anyway, so when you highlight something, this pops up. You've got mark, note, tag, add to, and link. These 5 features here are kind of the bulk of what you would like, the marking and recording of your scriptures. But the mark tool, and I talked about this a little bit, the mark tool to me is like worthless. And the reason it's worthless is because I can't, it's not organized. It's like taking a pair of socks or something and throwing it somewhere, and you knew you put it somewhere and you washed them, but you have no idea where, and you can never find them again. And it's so like there's a highlight in there somewhere, but it's not usable. It's not searchable. It's not, the only way for me to find it would be to like scroll through my scriptures and see if I've got something highlighted. And even then, if it was just marked, I have the whole goal behind this for me is if I'm highlighting something, I'm asking myself, BJ, why are you highlighting this? And if I only put a mark, I don't have a reason. I don't know. I'm be looking at this 5 years from now and I'm like, I have no idea why I highlighted this. I don't know when I highlighted it. I don't know why I highlighted. I don't know anything. So I never really highlight, but I do want to point out that if you put a note, it does the same thing. It it highlights it. Okay, I'm just going to show you that it still highlights it. So you're not losing anything by not using the word mark. Okay, but I want to show something here real quick. So say that you really liked this David, you have feared man. Okay, I fear man too. This resonates with me. I am going to create a note, and actually, before I create a note, I am going to show, we talked a little bit about the power of ChatGPT. So I'm going to go to ChatGPT and ask, hey, I don't know who David feared in D&C 30 verse 1. Can you tell me about that? Gee, sorry. Great question. D&C 31, the Lord chastises David Whitmer for fearing man more than God. Who did David fear? The scriptures don't name a specific person, but based on historical context, it's likely referring to Hiram Page and his claims of receiving revelation through a seer stone. And then it gives me some more stuff, some context of David's fear, why it matters. And then it asks me, would I like to explore this further or see how it applies today? Sure. Tell me. How does it apply today? Awesome. It's really relevant today because just like David Whitmer struggled with outside, we also face pressure. We have fear of others' opinions, trusting in the Lord's prophets, spiritual discernment, powerful questions, blah, 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 whatever. It's really cool. ChatGPT is awesome. For example, who else in the D&C feared God? Great question. Here are some examples. Martin Harris gives me a lesson. Joseph Smith even, he feared man more than God. Yeah, we know about the 116 pages, and it gives me references. Oliver Cowdery, Sidney Rigdon. Okay, cool. There's even a pattern. I mean, anyway, you get the point. It's really cool. I use ChatGPT a ton. Actually, can you give me sources? Yeah. Oops. I don't know what this is. Absolutely. Here are the sources from D&C. Absolutely. Here are sources from D&C. Oh, second answer. I don't know what that is, but whatever. You can see that they're giving me sources here. It's really cool. And then asks me, would you like to dive deeper? Okay, sorry. I kind of went off on a tangent there. But so what I want to say is, we learned, going down a rabbit hole here, that David feared man more than God. But we know that it was Hiram Page. So I want to remember that. So I'm going to click on note. And I'm going to write as a title, it's really important to have titles, David feared Hiram Page. That's all I can think of right now. So that's all I want to write. I could write more in the body, but that's all I want. So it made a highlight. If you click on the highlight, this used to say mark. Now it says style because I have a mark already and it's saying, what color do you want it to be? Do you want it to be underlined? So if I click on it, it gives me the opportunity to highlight it. Right now it's blue, but I'm going to make it yellow. That's what this black triangle is saying. It's highlighted. Or orange or gray, but nobody's going to use gray ever because it looks like the dang paper. Just kidding. You can use gray if you want. But let's say that I had green, but I wanted to underline it. That's what that in the triangle underneath says, oh, hey, you're underlined. Or, things like that. So that's how you change it. And it only shows up because I already have a mark there. Otherwise, it would say mark here. So style to change the type. Okay, so now I've got a note. There's my note. And it's in and of itself, it's not really helpful to me. I have to be able to find it when I need it and look for it and search and record my feelings and thoughts. So that's how you use the tag feature. So I've got a note and I'm going to tag it now. And I've got tons of tags under here. I have tons, like Gentiles, happiness, Oliver Cowdery, Peter, Satan, temptation. Some of them are dumb, some of them are not. Dieter Uchtdorf, forgiveness, natural self, scripture study. It's really cool because I don't need to go through all those. I can just type in so David Whitmer, he was fearing man. So I'm going to start by typing fear. So I've got a tag already for fear, and I also have one for fear of man. Great, I'm adding to it. And because why not, I'm also it refers to David Whitmer. I'm going to put in David Whitmer, which I already have a tag for David Whitmer. That's great. So I'll just click it. And then I'm also going to use Hiram Page because, there you go. I have a tag for Hiram Page with one thing in there. Let's say that I typed in, Provo, just because I thought this dealt with Provo. And I'm looking to see if I have a tag and I do not for Provo. All I have to do is hit enter, and it creates a tag for Provo. So anything that isn't in here, it's okay. You can create a tag super easy. Say I wanted to write keyboard for my tag. Well, I don't have a tag for keyboard. I would just hit enter. I'm not going to do that though. And I'm going to delete the tag for Provo. So I've got my 3 tags here. This is kind of my my categories here. But the last thing I need to do, again, all you have to do is click on it to access it. The last thing I need to do, I've created a note, I've given it some tags, and now I need to add it to a notebook. And this is kind of dumb, the way they say add to, because if you go back to the front page, they're called annotations, tags, and notebooks. But if you go to where we are, they're called notes, tags, and add to. It should say annotations, tags, and notebooks, but it doesn't. So it's kind of confusing. A note is an annotation. It's the same thing. A note here is the same thing as an annotation here, okay? And a tag is the same as a tag, and add to is the same as notebook. So I've typed a note, I've given it a tag, and now I need to add it to my notebook. The way that I look at notebooks, I talked about this a little in class, or a little in our lesson, but I look at it as, hey, is this just a one-off, like, oh, this is a cool thing, or is this a class I want to take? Is this a class I would sign up to at BYU? Or if I was going to, say I really wanted to learn about God's love. And I thought to myself, you know what, I'm going to study this for the next few months. This is going to be an ongoing study for me. That's a notebook. Think of like taking you've got 4 separate notebooks for your 4 separate classes. One's biology, one's math, one's literature, one's whatever. So if it was biology, and I think we mentioned this, the biology would be the class. That's what you're going to take a semester class on. And inside that notebook are going to be all your notes. And each of those notes will be tagged with different things, whatever you want, like photosynthesis or the Krebs cycle or, the circulatory system or physiology or whatever. Actually, physiology would probably be a notebook. So in my case, and I've gone through various notebooks. Like I've gone through, hey, look, this is my May 20th Old Testament study. And I started keeping them like that. In the end, I've kind of, here's another one. Is God mad at me? I've spent a lot of time feeling that God's mad at me. So I actually created a notebook, and I have been studying that since whenever I created it. And they go into that notebook. In other words, I'm taking a class called Is God Mad at Me? And it's taught by God, I guess. But for me, for right now, I'm studying the Doctrine and Covenants, so this is my class. I'm going to click on Doctrine and Covenants, and that is the notebook that it's been assigned. So if I click on it again, you'll see that I've actually assigned it a notebook. That's how you know. Okay, if there was no checkbox there, then it would not be assigned a notebook. So there you go. Those are the 3 most powerful tools for me that I use all day, not all day, just whenever I study the gospel. Okay, this 4th one here is really cool. It's you can link things. I'm going to show you how to do that real quick. So because we're talking about Hiram Page here, I remember that Hiram Page in section 28 was actually, he brought up, that's when they brought up like the seer stone, and he was thinking that he had revelations and whatnot. And that's probably where my tag came from. But I want to remember that David feared man, that he actually was fearing Hiram Page. So I'm going to link to section 28. So when you click on link, it's going to bring up a window that says, okay, where do you want to link to? It's not going to make it easy for you. You have to figure out where it's going to, you have to find it. So I remember it was D&C 28. So I'm going to click on scriptures. I'm going to go find it, D&C section 28, and it's going to pull up the whole section, okay? And I have to choose what I want to link to. So I know that it talks about Hiram Page in the heading. So I'm going to click this. It goes by paragraph or verse. So I'm going to click the whole paragraph, and it gives me this line saying, okay, cool, we'll link it to this. But I also know that verses 11 through 16 talk about how Satan deceived Hiram Page and gave him false revelations. So I'm going to link those two. So I'm going to scroll down to 11, click it, click 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. And that line is how I know that they're linked. And then I'm going to click add. So now you can see that it's added what I've just linked. But it's now asking me, without asking me, hey, do you want to add more? And I'm going to, if I want to, because a lot of times you can link tons of things here. I'm going to say, oh yeah, I want to link the title page of the Old Testament. Okay, great. So I've linked that too. And there we go. It showed up. So now it's linked to those. But I don't want to link the title page. And then you're not done yet. You have to click save. But before I click save, you can link anything, hymns and handbooks and magazines and books and lessons. You can link anything. So I'm done linking D&C section 28 because I have a page, and I'm going to click save. So now my link has been linked, but you can't see anything. And so this is where, I often got held up. It's like, dang, where did it go? It's the same question that Carrie asked in the class. Like, well, shoot, I just did all this stuff. Where the heck is it? Here's one way you can see your note, but if you click on note, you can see it. But when you click on it again, it's saying, oh, do you want to edit it? And so let's talk about where it went. And we talked about it a little bit, but there's a few ways to see your note. First one is right here. And you can see if I mark something, it doesn't even give me anything over here. Like even Gospel Library is saying, oh, you didn't really do much. So once again, a plug to not use marks. My note, though, gives me a little note icon. And I'm going to remove my note here. And that deletes everything. That deletes the whole note. So if you did delete a good note, that's a bummer. I'm sorry. I've done it. But one way is to click on this little piece of paper. That will show you your note. You can see the date, April 1st. You can see my note, the David Feared Hiram page. I didn't write anything in here. And then you can see my tag. And this little link, this little chain link right here, that indicates a tag. Or link, sorry, not a tag. It indicates a link. And you can see that here's the summary. And then you'll see 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15, and 16. And then you'll see my tags, and you'll see my notebook. So everything's organized. And it is cool. If you wanted to, you could click on Hiram Page and see where else. See, my other note was that I learned that Hiram Page was one of the 8 witnesses, and I wanted to remember that. He wasn't a nobody. I remember thinking, like, dude, this dude, no wonder people were following him. No wonder David, one of the 3 witnesses, was thinking, hey, shoot, he received revelation too. Like, why wouldn't he? Okay, so there's my 2 Hiram Page links. The first one here, second one here. So that's cool, right? You can access, what about David Whitmer? Oh, great. And so forth. Okay, so that's one way to get there. You can click on this note. The second way to get there, and this is really powerful, is called related content. Okay, so up here in the 3 dots, these 3 dots here on the top right, if you click on them, you'll see a whole bunch of stuff. It's pretty self-explanatory here. You can change your language, blah, blah, blah. But this related content is not self-explanatory. But if you click on it, it'll bring up what the church thinks is relevant, whoever's in charge of the Gospel Library, for this whole section. Okay? So, for example, it thinks this historical resources, Doctrine and Covenants 30 through 36 is important. And then it just starts going down the line. It says, okay, verse 1, behold, and the first thing it runs into is my note. That's what this 1 is. It's verse 1. Okay, so say I wrote here on verse 2 a note, and I said, oh my gosh, that's great. It's great. Blah, 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 great. It's going to show once 1 is done, it's going to go to verse 2. After 1a and 1b, here's 1a right here. And here's 1b. So it's just kind of doing all the footnotes. It's doing my notes. And you can see that it's just a bunch of footnotes here. Okay. But they also include a ton of other stuff. I'm actually going to delete this note. You click remove to delete it. Yes, I want to. Here's what's cool about related content. Actually, I'm going to use a different, I'm going to go to my bookshelf because I'm going to go to 1 Nephi chapter 1. 1 Nephi chapter 1. Okay. So once again, here's the related content. So again, if it wasn't up, you can see my notes. If I wanted to see my notes, I can click on it. Great. You can also see pictures and stuff, whatever the church thinks is important. That's what related content is. But what's cool about related content is as you scroll down, theoretically, this will jump with it. And it's not right now because the app isn't perfect, but you'll see that it probably will at some point. Like, it will, yeah, see how it just moved the whole thing? It went to verse 15, and look, here's a mark. Actually, I don't know, verse 15, I don't even know what this is. Oh, it's a link. I linked it. Verse 15, I linked it to 1 Nephi 11:22. And I also linked it to a First Vision account, and you can tell that I linked it. Anyway, so back up. So the related content is everything the church thinks is important. Here's what's cool about related content. Say you get overwhelmed by all this stuff. You could take it away. These are my notes. Remember, annotations is another word for note. I'm going to take away the footnotes, the videos, the images, and the publications. And I'm just going to have my notes here. And these are just my notes. Until they're all done. And those are my notes. But I don't do that. I like to see all of it. I want to go down a rabbit hole here. I want to see everything and just see where I go. If it's, like I said, like, be curious. Let yourself go wherever you want to go. If you're bored, go somewhere else. Learn something else. For me, you can see that Wednesday, January 6, 2021, I started reading the Book of Mormon again, and I wrote some thoughts. I'm not sure exactly how many times I've read the Book of Mormon in its entirety, less than 10, but more than 5. But I'm beginning again. This particular time, I feel a certain level of excitement. And I gave it a couple tags: Scripture Study and Hope. And I linked it, or my notebook is a Book of Mormon. Also, like, there's so many tools that the Gospel Library offers, like these church videos are one. It's like right there.
It is about 600 BC, and the people of Jerusalem are not keeping the commandments of God.
Jerusalem must be destroyed.
Yeah, you get the idea. They're super awesome. And so my related content disappeared. I'm gonna bring it back. Try and bring it back. Sometimes it freezes. It doesn't do it very often, but sometimes it freezes. So I'm going to force close it, and then bring it back up. And then I'm going to go to 1 Nephi 1. So that was a good example of what you do when it freezes. Super quick and easy. But again, talking about the related content, they have Book of Mormon stories. Like, I'll click on it and be like, oh, what's this? Is it for kids? Is it for, okay, it looks like it's for kids. Maybe I'll read it. Maybe I won't. And as you go down, it runs into my note, right? So it starts going through my note. And as I scroll through and read, you can see how it jumped. That's what it should do. It jumped to my verse 4 where I have a note. This note is, like, I write a lot of notes. I write a lot about my feelings and my thoughts and my questions and my doubts and my frustrations, but I also write, like, knowledge stuff, like I learned, like David Whitmer feared Hiram Page. That was not a feeling. This one, I learned that King Zedekiah was a wicked 21-year-old king. And I learned that in 2 Kings 24, and he's going to reign for 11 years. And a whole bunch of other stuff, Mulek. And so my tags, sometimes I get a little crazy with like 12 tribes of Israel, number 4, Judah. Actually, 2 Kings, Zedekiah, those are my tags. And the notebook is Book of Mormon. So again, as I did this in 2024. I did this one in 2021. So as I read through, it's like, oh man, what did I say here? I want to know what I wrote. The Lord gave Lehi a book. Awesome. What did I write? Here, this is 15. These are the links that I linked to this scripture, and so forth. And here's another cool thing. You can. So I guess I will use mark sometime. I will sometimes mark something like this. Then I can see how it changed to style. I'll make it red, not underline. And then sometimes I'll come through and I'll highlight something again that I really want to see. Like I'll mark it, I'll change it to underline and I'll make it blue so that I can see little differences here. And then it's going to say, if you click, like there's two highlights here, right? There's the red one and there's the blue underline. So if you click on it, it knows that I'm clicking on the red one here. But if I click here, it asks me, which one are you clicking on? And I want to click on the blue one. And now I want to add a note. And then I can tag it and add it too. So that's how you can overlap. You can see here I have I have a yellow highlight. And then for some other reason I wrote orange. And then even more, I wrote a blue underline, or I highlighted a blue underline. So 3 things going on here. And I don't even know what they are. So let's click on it and find out. So verse 20, I talk about tender mercies. I think in verse 20, he actually uses the word tender mercies. Yeah, behold, I, Nephi, will show unto you that tender mercies. And that's where Elder Bednar got that talk. Okay, here's another cool thing. In the note, let's say I wanted to go edit this note. You can see that Tender Mercies is highlighted. I'm going to show you, so you can edit your notes, you can duplicate your notes, you can move them to notebooks, whatever. I'm going to edit the note. You can see that I didn't write a ton, but I linked the Tender Mercies talk. So when I'm looking through my notes, it's like, oh, that's where he got the word tender mercy. If I click on tender mercy, it'll actually take me to his talk, and I can read it. What is a tender? And then you look, I have more notes like what's a tender mercy, how to recognize, and then I've tagged them and the Lord's timing and blah 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 blah. Like, kind of cool stuff, right? So here's another problem. You tend to get lost. It's like, okay, I'm looking at tender mercies, but I was at 1 Nephi chapter 1. Like, how do I get back? This back button here is amazing. You could go all over the place. Like, say that, let's see. Say I click on Tender Mercies. Actually, that's not going to do it. I'm trying to go somewhere. Whatever. But anyway, the back button is really powerful because it'll just take you back to where you were. So I want to show you how I highlighted that link. So I clicked on the note, or I could look at related content, and you can edit your note. Okay, so just a few. Oh, actually, I don't even have a note here. This is cool. So I don't have a link here. So say that, actually, I'm going to do it somewhere else. I'm going to do it right here. D&C section 30. Okay. So we talked about Hiram Page here, right? So I'm going to click on the note to pull it up again. This is my original note. And I know that, I'll often go to Wikipedia, like, just because I like going down rabbit holes. So I'm going to take this link. I'm just going to copy it. Well, I already copied it with the hotkey, but whatever. And then I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to say more on Hiram Page. And now, if you highlight this, and you don't have to do all this stuff. Like, I'm just showing you what's available. Here's that link thing again. If you highlight it and link, it's going to say, oh, you're linking what you highlighted, and where do you want to link it to? And I'm going to link it to the Wikipedia article. And that's how that is done. It's also got bold, italics, underline, normal stuff. It's also got bullets, or, you can keep kill. Sorry. Anyway, you get the point there. It's also got, you can center it, move to left, justify it, whatever. There's the link thing. Sometimes I'll even use page breaks. Like, I might write, oh, this is a bunch of gobbledygook, and now I want to write my feelings. So sometimes I'll put a little page break and be like, hey, what this means to me is whatever. That's what the page break is. And the last one is a date, which I find not very valuable. I never use it because it's already dated, but whatever. If you wanted to insert your date, you could. And then delete your note and undo, or anti-undo your note, or whatever. Okay. So that's how you, and there's our link right there, more on Hiram Page. And if you click on it, it'll take you right to Hiram Page. And I'll even show you, I'll delete it. So back to ChatGPT, and then say we're reading section 30, and I'm like, oh, David feared Hiram Page. Well, I want to learn about Hiram Page. What did I get to? And there it is right there. Okay. So, let's see here. Okay, so those are the main features: note, tag, add to, links, changing the style because you already have a note. The real power of it is in like going back to 1 Nephi 1 this is your progression of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Like it's like the progression of your own testimony, your own gospel knowledge, and what you feel. So like President Nelson, I think I even had it in here. No, I took it out. President Nelson, he shared, like we talked about in class, like record your thoughts, record your feelings, write them down, think about them, pray about them, ask the Lord, and do it again and again and again. And over time, over minutes and hours and days and weeks and months and years, you will change. You will hear the Lord. And that's what I've experienced. And a lot of what I've experienced is coming through my notes as I write them and relive reading the spiritual experiences that I'm sharing. It's really powerful for me. So let me show you what I mean here. So I'm just, you see me. I use a lot of these tabs. I don't want to get rid of DNC 30. I don't want to get rid of First Nephi 1. I don't care about First Nephi 4 right now. So if I click on the home screen, I put these on the top because I often use them. You can see all your notebooks. There you are. So if you wanted to go see all your notebooks, great. You could click on them and go learn about biology, right? Or learn about the DNC or whatever the class is. But I love going into tags. And I have, like I said, I have a ton of tags. And I'm going to get rid of related content here. I have a ton of tags. I have things that are my own feelings and thoughts and questions and doubts. But I also, like I said, I have Isaiah helps. Like I have a lot of them. Why do you keep asking for more punishment? That's what that means. Why should ye be stricken anymore? That's what I understand. Or Isaiah is fast forwarding to the future. Or, and the daughter of Zion is left as a cottage in a vineyard. Cottages are temporary structures built of straw. They are weak. A lodge in a garden of cucumbers, also weak. As a lodge in a garden of cucumbers, as a besieged city. In other words, you are super not strong. You are weak. You have no protection. So those are not really personal. Those are things that are helping me to understand Isaiah. But tons of these are my own feelings and thoughts. Moses, Genesis talks, wickedness, spiritually reborn. If I click on this tag, it sorts these by my oldest to newest. And you can see that I wrote a note in 2020. Actually, I don't know if it sorts at oldest to newest, but whatever. I don't exactly know how it sorts it, but you can see that I was reading Alma 10:6, and I've put it in a notebook to February 5th, 2020, the Book of Mormon study. You can see that this was more than just what I was writing in Isaiah about cottages, which is, just knowledge. This is the feelings of my heart. Like Amulek was talking about how his heart was hardened and he was called many times and I would not hear. Therefore, I knew concerning these things, yet I would not know. He knew, but he would not know. And I wrote my thoughts and feelings. It's referring to Amulek. He's been talking for a couple of verses about who he is, blah, blah, blah. He's a descendant of Lehi and he's well known. And he's described how he's seen a lot from the hand of God. Basically, he sounds inactive and he knows that he should be going to church, but he's not. Then he talks about how he hardened his heart and he knew concerning these things, yet I would not know. And I wrote my thoughts. It was such a powerful way for me to read in words what so many of us have felt. I knew, but I wouldn't know. I knew what I should be doing. I knew what I shouldn't be doing. I knew what I should be listening to or not listening to or not watching. I knew what I should be eliminating from my life or what I should be adding to my life. I know that I should be praying and what I should be praying for, but I would not know. It's really powerful to me. It was powerful to me when I read it, and just rereading it again, I feel it. You can see my tags, Alma and Amulek, Alma the Younger, a change of heart, eyes to see, feeling the Spirit, because I felt the Spirit. Mortal life, naked in all soberness, Satan's distraction, and spiritually reborn. More. How are we are sons and daughters of Jesus Christ? Clearly, my thoughts on that. I'm linking Mosiah 5. There's my note. There are my tags. There's my notebook. Be ye separate. I said a prayer this morning that I could get back to the things of God, and so forth. So, Elder Bednar constantly returns to overcoming the natural man. I'm trying to find trends, and actually one of my tags one of my notebooks is Elder Bednar because I started studying all of his talks. But anyway, here's a cool thing here. You can see that I cannot show content because April 2016 is not installed. So how do you fix that? Right? It's easy. You just click it. It'll go to April 2016, and then I just click back and go right back to my tag, and then it's installed. There you go. Here's a quote by Joseph Smith. More tags and more. Oh, this one doesn't have a notebook. Bro, it doesn't have a notebook. See, I must have forgotten. So how are we to be born again but through the Holy Ghost? So this is a general conference talk. So we're going to add a notebook, and I'm going to add it. It's actually Bednar's conference talk, so I'm going to add it to David A. Bednar's notebook because I know that I've been studying those. So you can see it just added the notebook down here. So there's some of the power of writing down your thoughts and your feelings and your questions. I have tags that are called questions and answers and spiritual experiences and when the Lord talked to me and when he didn't talk to me and my thoughts on obedience and Exodus, the book of Exodus, and here's some of my answers to the prayers and just prayer in general and change. How does one change? These are all my thoughts, and I'm sure I'm linking a ton of scriptures on how does one change? How does one feel the Spirit? Ways that I manifest pride. Like I'm motivated right now to click on these and see how am I manifesting pride? Like, and to refresh my memory of things that God has told me and ways that I need to change and how I hear him, how others hear him, and the Joseph Smith translation and Saul and Paul and just tons and tons of stuff in here. And I don't have a recollection really of writing much of it, but I know that I did. And so that to get to there, that's just clicking on tags. And so that's some of the power of keeping your notes and reliving those experiences. And the next time I read the Old Testament, I'm going to have tons of notes in there. Or Isaiah, I probably have tons of notes on Isaiah. Like, what is this? It's just very simple notes saying, hey, this cottage means that you're weak. And because we're weak, that's what Isaiah was saying here. That leads me to some of the other sources that I use. I use a ton. I use ChatGPT. ChatGPT is so good for me at starting me down a rabbit hole. Like, if I click on, I'm just going to go to something crazy. Like, I'm going to go to somewhere in the Old Testament. Actually, I don't want to use that one. I'm going to open a new one. I'm going to go to the Old Testament, go to my bookshelf. I'm going to go to the scriptures, go to the Old Testament. I'm going to find Isaiah here. And I'm going to click on, I don't even know, 44. And I'm going to say to ChatGPT, I'm going to say, what are we in, Isaiah 44? Can you give me some context for Isaiah 44? Yeah. It's a powerful chapter where the Lord reassures Israel of his sovereignty, denounces idol worship, blah, blah, blah. Here's some background. 8th century BC, Judah, blah, blah, blah. Here are some themes and the verses. Another theme, God's supremacy over idols, the prophecy of Cyrus. Here are some takeaways. This chapter is a powerful message of hope for Israel and a reminder for us today that trusting in God is always better. Would you like a deeper breakdown of a specific part? And then he even gives me a happy face. Like, geez, what more could I want? Anyway, I'll use this to just pique my interest and be like, dude, okay, so what was going on again? He said he was 8th century BC. It was facing destruction by Assyria, and Judah was being threatened here. So, yeah, let's dive into this. And then, for I will pour water upon him that is thirsty. What the heck does that mean? I could go back to ChatGPT. So anyway, that's one resource that I use a lot. Here's another. I actually, especially with my iPad, this is really cool. You can click on these 3 buttons up here, and you can split the view, and you can add whatever you want. And I'm going to, I study this. I study this a lot. I'll click on Kindle, and that's why it's in my church thing, because I have a lot of church books. You click on Kindle, and it will pull up any book you have. And I have a ton of Ridge's books, David Ridge's. And he really, really started me on this great path. Like, like DNC, we're on section 30. So like I just follow along with him, like we'll go back to DNC 30. So he's giving me background here. This revelation was given through Joseph Smith and David Whitmer, just like ChatGPT would. And I'll go through verse 1 as I read. Behold, I say unto you, David, that you have feared man. He doesn't have any thoughts on that. But you can see right before verse 3, he'll say, oh, look, David, blah, 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 whatever. So next, Peter Whitmer Jr. does this. And that was very valuable for me as I'm reading through this. It was almost like having David Ridges next to me, some scholar or whatever, help me out. And now it's even better because I have ChatGPT, which is like any phrase, like you could see David Ridges didn't talk about verse 1. But we got ChatGPT telling us more about verse 1. We could have him just talk about a word. So it's almost like having your own encyclopedia right next to you. So that's one thing that I do. I'll often have these 2 open. Sometimes I'll put a website here and read along, whatever. And then you can get rid of it pretty easy. So you can see that I have a kind of a church tab here, and I've got all my citation index and things that I use to study. Here's all the videos of the church. Super cool. They're awesome. The last thing I want to talk about real quick is when you're looking at related content, the church again will give you all these resources, and these historical resources are really, really cool. Like the question or the difficulty in studying the scriptures, I think, is like, where do you start and where do you go? And so often we'll just start reading, behold us, and you find yourself just reading and not getting a lot out of it, and it's kind of boring, and you don't understand, and you're not really learning a ton, but at least you're checking a box, at least you're doing something, right? Well, that's when that's kind of passive learning. When scripture study becomes active, that's when when you start going down these rabbit holes of just wherever you go. Don't tell yourself you have to finish. I mean, do whatever you want, but like I found that when I started giving myself really structure around it, then I would kind of get lost. But if I just let myself go wherever I go, it was amazing. And I found myself just running out of time. Like, oh my gosh, I got to go to work. And so utilizing these specifically for the DNC, they have these historical resources. I think I have it right here, which you can go down tons of rabbit holes here, like A Mission to the Lamanites by that guy, and The Faith and Fall of Thomas Marsh. And you start reading it and just go where it goes, and you can see all these sources. Like, okay, cool, I'm clicking on this source. Where did we go here? And it's in 1830 F, and you can go read about it, and it'll take you to Saints, the book, and here's the chapter that relates to DNC 30, and you can start reading it. And if you get bored, go back. I've found that seriously, ChatGPT gets me interested, just getting some background, some context. Like, all of these people were people. Like, you watch a movie and you're like, oh, I'm curious about if that was a true story, and you go to Wikipedia and you read about it. All of these people are people, and they had lives, and you can just start getting just down a rabbit hole. Places, events, for example, like DNC 30, they have every one of these historical resources has people, places, and events. You can see that the people are the ones that are relating in the Doctrine and Covenants. There's section 28 right there, and there's Hiram Page, and you can read about Hiram Page, and you can actually see my note there. That's when I found out he was one of the 8 witnesses, or wrote it down at least. And you can see more information. Just click on it, see where it takes you, and it's awesome. So the last thing that I want to talk about, I know I already said the last thing, is just if you're like, oh my gosh, I can't type fast, I don't have a keyboard, I don't know how to take notes. We talked about this just a tiny bit, but this is amazing. If you have an iPhone, you just make a note, and you can record your voice. It's super simple. You just click on this paperclip, click on record audio, and then click record. And you don't have to stay in this screen. You could go back and say, I was just reading about DNC 30, and here's an easy way to get there, because DNC 30 is right here. It's in our history. I was just reading about DNC 30, where I learned that David Whitmer, who left the church at some point, was fearing man more than God, and he was specifically fearing Hiram Page. And it just made me think, like, dang, man, like, he was human, that poor guy. And made me think of me and all the times that I've feared man more than God. And it really affected me, and blah, 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 blah. So I'm sitting here just talking out loud, and the note in the background is recording. So I'm going to stop it and click on it, and it's already transcribed. And you can see word, and you don't have to stay in what I said. Screen. You could go back and say our history. It's so cool. You just click anywhere you want, and made me think of me and all the times that I've feared. And then you can copy this just up on the top right here. You can copy your transcript. And blah 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 blah. So I'm sitting here and add it to your note. Where's DNC 30? Here's my note. So remember how we never added anything to the body? Well, now I am. I'm going to just, because I want to know that this is my voice, I'm just going to say voice and then say that. And those are my thoughts. Those are my thoughts on what I studied. I didn't have to type it. I just recorded it. And even better, if you can click on summary, this is amazing. If you click on summary, it'll give you, AI will give you a summary of what you just said. The speaker reflects on a personal connection to a historical figure, David Whitmer, who feared man more than God, and how this resonated with their own experiences. How awesome is that? And then you can copy that and put that in your notes. Like that's just amazing. I'm going to click on the note, and I'm going to say voice summary. And then I'm going to do a little page break here because here's my note. There you go. And I'm going to bold it because why not? And I'm going to bold voice summary because why not? There you go. There's my summary and there's my note. So anytime I'm reading about, I'm going to click on related content here. Anytime I'm reading about DNC 30, or if I click on, there's my note right there. There's my summary. Anytime I click on, there's my tag, my link to DNC 28 where it talks about Hiram Page. Anytime I go to Hiram Page or Fear of Man or David Whitmer, I'm going to be brought back to what I thought and learned. And it's truly life-changing. So the tools of Gospel Library are amazing. I love them. It's not perfect. Sometimes it'll crash. But I told you guys, I bought this iPad specifically to study the scripture like this. And it's really changed my life. Now, I know everybody's different. And I think it's great studying paper scriptures and whatever, but or people will do things differently than me with notebooks and tags and annotations. But this is just a start, right? This is just a start of how these are used and how they can really benefit you. So I hope this has been helpful. If it hasn't, don't tell me, because then it'll hurt my feelings and I'll have to go record my feelings in my journal about how my feelings are hurt. Just kidding. I hope it has been helpful. Yeah, so we'll end it right there.